Good morning, Heber Valley. Hope you're having a wonderful, beautiful day. It is very nice out there. It's going to be a warm one. It's we're going to warm way up into the mid 90s. It looks like this week, so for the weekend, and so it's going to be warm, especially if you end up going a little bit further south. It's going to be well into the triple digits probably. So it's summer is officially here. Welcome to the show. This is Mornings with Mike. My name is Mike Hewlett, and we appreciate you being here with us and tuning into the show. And as always, brought to you by Hewlett Life and Health Insurance. All right, well, we're going to jump right into it because we have a guest here waiting, and he is a very busy man these days. So we're gonna get his. We're going to get some good information from him. So we want to welcome to the show the Wasatch County Fire Marshal, Clint Neerings. And it's kind of funny for me. I still feel like I'm 20 years old. No matter how old I get, I think I'm going to feel like I'm 20 years old. And, Clint was, probably 5 years or so younger than me, at least.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, I still feel like you should just be like a snotty little kid. And
I'm still immature, so
you're still
not a whole lot has changed.
But it's just such a. You're the fire marshal. You're legit.
It's not as important as it sounds.
It sounds pretty cool. So. But thank you for taking a little bit of time. I know it was short notice. It just barely dawned on me yesterday that we needed to make sure we had some good info on fireworks and what people need to be aware of this 4th of July, because people can be lighting fireworks right now, right?
Yes, sir. July 1st is when it first opens and goes to the 7th.
July 1st to the 7th.
Yep.
And then
3 days before and 3 days after every holiday. So the 21st to the 27th, and then the 1st to the 7th.
Gotcha.
And then you've got Chinese New Year's and other in there.
There's some other things that probably aren't as big of a concern. But
these are a major concern time period.
Yeah. When there's 10 feet of snow on the ground,
we're not real worried about it burning down when there's snow on the ground.
Right. Now, briefly, in the state of Utah, hadn't they opened it up for the entire month of July?
I believe the first year they did it 3 years ago, it was open for quite an extended period of time, but I think they had quite a bit of problems enforcing and noise ordinances and a whole month of enforcing it and chasing fireworks when you can't really pinpoint where they are was a big factor in narrowing the window when you can set them off. Yeah, that was probably wise. I remember when they changed the rules and it was just like, anything goes. Pretty much free for all there for a second, it seemed.
Yeah. Well, that's probably wise that they tightened it back up. Okay, so I guess the first thing that we need to be aware of is what fireworks are allowed and what fireworks are not allowed. And we don't need you to give us a rundown of each individual, celebration, surprise. We don't need you to give us the names. We just need to know kind of basics of what we can and can't do. Now this isn't probably a huge fire danger, but firecrackers are those still?
No, those are illegal. Basically, the only thing you can set off as of 3 years ago is they call it a cake. It's a multi-tube that goes off, so you can't use any single reloadable tube, so you can't go out of state, buy a single mortar that's reloadable that uses the same tube over and over. Basically, anything you can hold in your hand and point in any direction, so any Roman candle, any bottle rockets, firecrackers, M80s, Grand Salutes, anything that you can throw from your hand and not have control of it. So like you said, your bottle rockets, your Roman candles that you point and aim that can be shot horizontally.
Right.
Basically, anything that doesn't have a base is illegal. Anything that we sell around Heber, myself and the fire chief and the fire warden go and inspect all the stands make sure they only have legal fireworks and such. So. Right.
Okay, well, so, yeah, basically, if you buy it here, it's fine.
Yeah.
If you try to cross the border and get something from Evanston or anywhere else, there's going to be a good chance that you're not allowed to use that here.
Yeah, if you have to go across the border in Evanston and buy it because you can't get it here, you're pretty much, it's illegal and you can't have it. And if you're caught with it, I believe it's a Class B misdemeanor.
Right.
For transporting an illegal substance across the border.
Okay. Yeah. So not a pleasant thing to be caught with.
Yeah.
No. How difficult is it for you guys to enforce these new rules since there are legal aerial fireworks now?
Mm-hmm.
How difficult is it for you guys to go around and kind of pinpoint? I mean, because it's pretty obvious when somebody, you get to the 4th of July and it starts to get dark and people start lighting these things off and you see the little aerials going off and then all of a sudden one will go off and it's just like this massive explosion and it lights up the entire sky and you're like, okay, that's probably
not legal.
Yeah, I mean, how difficult is that for you guys to pinpoint?
From a fire district standpoint, we are not a ticket writing entity, so that we revert down if we have any kind of fireworks issues. The state's adopted through their state statutes for the Heber City Police and the county sheriff's deputy. If we do have illegal fireworks at the stands or that are being set off, we go through them as the law enforcement agencies for the county. As far as enforcement, it's really hard to differentiate between the legal 150-foot aerials and one that goes 200 feet in the air. It's really hard to judge, especially if I'm in the north end of town. I set one off, and then I'm gone. So the police are across town, then they have to come and look for it. More times than not, it's hard to pinpoint where it's coming from.
Right. Yeah, I would imagine that would be difficult. But keep in mind that if you do get caught with them, even if you're not just trying to cross a state line, if you're caught in possession of illegal fireworks, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, it's a definite problem. You'll be ticketed, and there's all sorts of bad stuff that happens from there.
Yeah, and they'll take them away if you haven't already let them off.
Anything that's illegal will be confiscated, same as any illegal substance that you bring across county lines or state lines.
Okay. So now we have maps and different things of where we are and are not allowed. Can you give us just a basic rundown of where we are allowed to light fireworks and where they are just 100% off limits?
Absolutely. As of now, the Wasatch County Fire District in Wasatch County does not have any fireworks bans. The only fireworks bans that I'm aware of are in Midway City, and basically those are anything west of Homestead Drive in the foothills, anything north of Cary and Bergie Lane, anything east of River Road, and south of 500 South. As of now, those are the only fireworks restrictions we have. Just a note, anything on national forests is illegal. You can't have fireworks. You can't even have fireworks on national forest land just because the likelihood of a fire developing significantly by the time any fire suppression entity gets up there is restricted, as well as any state or BLM lands. Unless you have a special permit from the state and the fire district, you can't have fireworks. So basically, national forest, state lands, and then Midway City has it in their letterhead of where is and is not legal. But like I said, those boundaries that I gave are pretty much the places where our fireworks are banned.
Okay, and we'll be able to find a map maybe on the Midway City website?
I checked this morning. It's not on Midway City's yet.
Okay.
We have all this information on the fire district's website at wasatchcountyfire.com. I just got the map for Midway this morning. We'll post it on there, as well as anytime if Heber, Daniel, Independence, Hideout, or any other bands come down, it'll be posted promptly on wasatchcountyfire.com along with the legal discharge dates, what is legal, what isn't legal, and just general safety tips.
Okay, great. What about having a fire in your yard? What about having a backyard little just campfire? What are the restrictions
as
there?
of now, same with fireworks. In Wasatch County, there's no campfire bans.
Okay.
The only place that does have a ban on campfires in southwestern Utah. Obviously, they have more significant temperatures earlier
drought
than
situation
we do.
there now too.
And as of now, there's no campfire bans. That could drastically change by the 24th if we have the weather that we're forecasted to have with the heat and the dry humidity. Then ban very well could come forth by the 24th through the state and the county.
Okay, so right now, if you want to have a little fire in your backyard, you're okay to do that. You don't need
Even
a permit.
when we have a fire ban.
Yeah.
We're not out to tell you you can't roast hot dogs or marshmallows in your backyard, as long as it's done responsibly. Our general rule of thumb is if your flame lengths are below your knee,
Yeah.
or the typical person's knee,
Yeah.
we don't have a problem with it. But anytime a ban does come down, it's more strictly enforced in the wildland urban interface areas,
Sure.
Timber Lakes area, Oak Haven, National Forest, anywhere where you can leave it unattended. Where in your
Right.
backyard, it's going to have someone around it, and the likelihood of it spreading is rather minimal.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So just fireworks safety 101. I mean, I know there's been some crazy things in the past. I think last summer there was a guy that was lighting off fireworks in his driveway, or his kids were, or whatever, and one tipped over, went into his garage and lit his house on fire. You know, I was actually watching a clip from one of the local news. I think it was Fox News or something, Fox 13, and they had a segment where they showed like a fireworks box, or a shoot box or something that they called it, that you know, it was had taller sides, so you could put your fireworks in there, as you know, and then light them, and then if they were to tip over, they would be somewhat contained, yeah, without putting somebody's eye out.
Absolutely, and that's the big thing. Is it goes without saying, along with anything in life, is just use common sense.
Yeah.
I mean, even if there's not a fireworks ban in Heber City or Daniel or anywhere, if you're by some tall, dry vegetation, probably not the best idea to start setting off fireworks, because any fire that is started because of an action that you do, you can be held liable for any suppression costs, and wildland fires run into the millions of dollars. I mean, if you start burning up Daniel Mountain or any other area like that, even if you're not having structures threatened, anytime we can't get a fire engine into it and we got to bring hand crews in and fire engines and air tankers, the bill gets very significant. So just use a lot of common sense.
Yeah. You don't want to end up with a big bill like that.
And they are big bills. Once you start calling in aircraft, it adds up significantly.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had a few run-ins with fireworks, just being a stupid kid. I got some from, like, I think I went on a trip to Missouri or something once, and I bought some, you know, just the little and I'm implicating myself here, but
we won't arrest you quite yet.
But they had, you know, they were like the little rocket ones. They weren't like on a stand, but they just had little fins on them, and you set them on the ground. But these ones were kind of old, and anyway, I lit one, and it tipped over, and it shot right into our pine tree, and it lit that pine tree on fire. And I mean, it was terrifying. It was so awful. First, the fact that it tipped over and started shooting around, and then, of course, that it ends up in the tree, and those trees are still full of old, dry needles and whatever, even though they're alive. And I mean, luckily I had a hose that I could get it put out with real quick. But yeah, I mean, if that had tipped a different direction, you know, it could have been.
Pine trees are notorious for exploding when they hit flames. You look on YouTube at any kind of wildfire, and any kind of flame that hits a pine tree, it just ignites, and then you get embers going every which way.
Right.
The big thing to remember is once you light it and let it go, it's like words. You can't take it back.
Yeah.
You don't have control over where it's going, and it could cost significantly.
Yeah. I really learned my lesson that day. I was like, I'm not going to do this again. This was stupid.
Absolutely.
But
as
anyway,
we all do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so very much for being on. I know it was short notice. Thank you. I know you're a busy guy. But yeah, make sure, hopefully, our listeners are paying attention, and that they'll be responsible this weekend, and you won't have any major incidences to worry about.
We sure hope so. And just, if in the next little while, just come on to WasatchCountyFire.com. We'll keep all the bans posted if the state brings any kind of campfire or fireworks bans. And then from the 1st to the 7th and the 21st to the 27th, just use common sense. Alcohol and fireworks don't mix. Don't hold them in your hand and set them off. And the big thing is, when you're doing it, keep a safe distance between the fireworks that you're setting off and the ones that you're going to, because that's the last thing we want to do. I mean, we've all seen the videos of the firework falls over, goes into the bag that's holding all the other explosives, and then they're going every which way.
Yeah.
So basically, make sure you've got a good clear ground. Don't set off fireworks by any dry vegetation. Always, always, at a minimum, have a bucket full of water that you can get a jump on it, or even better, a water hose, just a garden hose there to be able to extinguish it. And
Sure.
don't do it next to your house. Don't let kids do it. Just practice some responsibility and use some common sense, and that solves a lot of the world's problems.
Yeah, if common sense were more common.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you again so much. And once again, this is Fire Marshal Clint Neerings, and we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it anytime.
All right, have a great day. Thank you. All right, so be well aware of the dangers out there. Fireworks are so much fun, and we love having them. And it's been really fun to have some of the restrictions loosened a little bit over the last few years, and we want that to continue. We want to really be able to enjoy these new fireworks. So make sure that you're responsible with them, so that the state of Utah doesn't decide to change their mind and and restrict those again from us, because it was kind of a sad childhood growing up and having, I mean, seemed like all we had were sparklers and the little spinning flower things and smoke bombs. That was the extent of the fireworks that we had available to us. So anyway, we have our next guest here, and so we'll bring him on here in just a second. It always cracks me up when I forget to let people know that when they come into the station, they just need to come into the broadcast booth here, because there's nobody else here. I mean, you might as well just come on in. But I remember the first time I came in. You don't need those. I remember the first time I came in, though. I mean, it was you just feel weird about walking in, because it feels like it should be like a restricted area. But yeah, you're welcome to just walk on in, and you're not going to bother us. So anyway, we'll pull the microphone, make sure it's turned on there, and as I hit mine. You there?
Am I on there, Mike?
No, you're not. You got to turn that. Oh, I got to turn you on. There we are.
How about now, Mike? Am I on with you?
No.
Come on.
There
How
we
about
are.
now?
Perfect.
There we go.
Perfect. All right. Dan Ivie, the illustrious Dan Ivie, is here with us, and
Illustrious. I like that word, Mike.
it's a good
but
word.
Typically, people go with the great Dan Ivie, not the illustrious
great.
Dan Ivie. GDI sounds better
It's
than
weak. That's weak.
how do you
Great?
the great
Come
Dan
on.
Ivie.
Come on.
Hey, it's not a name I gave to myself. It was actually given to me by somebody else, and
Uh-huh.
I'm quite proud of it now.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. All right, Dan. You are, of course, the owner and operator of Wasatch Physical Therapy, and you guys have recently had a change of venue. Tell us a little bit about your background first, and kind of who you are and where you're from and what you're about.
All right, Mike. But first of all,
Uh-oh.
I'm not afraid to use a mic. I'm
No,
gonna be
I
honest
know
with
you're
you.
not.
You may lose your show
I
after
was
I'm done.
I was a little
So,
concerned to get you on.
Here's the situation. I was listening to our fire marshal talk about fireworks safety and everything, and I have a story. Can I tell a story?
Please do.
Okay, so this was probably about 10 years ago when most fireworks were illegal. And my kids and I have a tradition where we drive up to Evanston and we buy illegal fireworks and we bring them home and we light them on the 4th until we get in trouble. And we usually keep the
That's a
big
great
ones
tradition, Dan.
inside the house. And so when it's always Corey Berg. Corey Berg's always the one, or not Corey. Yeah, Corey Berg. Who's the Berg? That's the cop.
I don't know.
I think it's Corey. Anyways, it's always him who drives up.
There's a
And-
Corey Davis.
No, maybe no. I think it was maybe it
It's a
is Corey
Berg?
Davis.
I don't think there's a Berg. I
Anyway,
don't-
it's Corey Davis. I'm thinking Corey Berg because family.
Okay.
But anyway, so he always drives up, and we leave a few bottle rockets out there because they confiscate them. You know, we don't want them to get the good stuff. So my kids are just excited to light fireworks before everybody gets there. Okay.
Yeah.
So we take and we get a brown paper bag, just like we take a sack lunch to school in, and we put about 10 different types of fireworks in there. We take this paper bag outside and we set it out there where we're lighting the fireworks. I keep it about 10 feet away from where we're shooting these things off. And I don't know what it was, but it was one of these things that's like some sort of a rocket that goes up explodes. Kind of cool, definitely illegal at the time. So when my kids are just big grins on their face, I shoot this thing up in the air and it's a dud. It goes up about 10 feet, turns, and heads and lands right in the paper bag. Of all the places in the world this thing could land, it lands in this paper bag.
Sure.
Well, I notice that things start to go on fire, so we take cover. We go running up, diving up on the grass hill up above our house, or next to our house, and this thing starts shooting illegals all over the place, on top of people's houses, in trees. Thankfully, nothing caught on fire, but it was probably one of my kids' most amazing firework memory that they've ever had.
Yeah, I would imagine.
We could have burned our neighbor's house. I'm talking this big Roman candle-looking thing landed right on top of a roof and was sitting there festering on it.
Wow.
So, yeah. So be careful.
No kidding.
Kids, don't trust your fathers.
You definitely don't trust your dads.
So, Mike, let me give you a little background about myself. I'm originally from Farmington, New Mexico.
Okay.
I came up here. I'm a transplant to the Valley. I'm still not accepted in Midway, even though I've lived here since 1992. I'm still a transplant.
I've been here longer than you have, and I'm still a transplant.
But really? I thought you were born in the Valley.
No.
Yeah. Says a lot. So anyways, I came from Farmington, New Mexico. I came up here because when I was a kid, my dad used to bring me to the BYU football games. Yes, I am a Cougar fan.
And proud. You
proud
bleed blue.
Proud, I bleed blue.
Yeah.
But so what would happen is when BYU played New Mexico, in New Mexico, we'd go to that game.
Okay.
But when they didn't that year, because they play every other year, we'd come up here and we'd watch a football game. And I got to tell you, Mike, the women up here were so much better looking than where I was from.
Really?
So that's kind of why I came up here to begin with, is because the ladies were a lot nicer looking up here.
Because I mean, I don't know if there's a big difference between Farmington and Albuquerque.
No, there's.
But when I was in Albuquerque, I went there when I was a teenager, and I was just, I mean, it left and right. I mean, it was just.
Stop it.
No, it was unbelievable.
Stop it. You're older than me, or younger than me, I should say. I'm a lot older than you.
Oh, okay.
Must be a different generation.
Yeah.
It wasn't that
I
way
was
when
like, whoa.
But there is a difference between Farmington and Albuquerque.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up
All right.
just off of the reservation.
Okay. All
it's
right.
Tumbleweeds and
Small town.
sagebrush and juniper
Sure.
trees. So it's not as good. So that's what perked my interest with Utah.
Prettier girls.
Met my wife. Yeah. Met my wife. She's a Midway girl, Larly Berg, and so we moved up here in 1992. Originally, I was actually going to go into accounting, which I can't see myself to be an accountant right now.
No, that would be the worst possible, I think.
Scenario for me.
Yeah, that would be horrible because you just pour over numbers all day and never get to talk to
I'd
anybody.
go nuts.
Yeah.
But I might be able to golf more often if I did. But
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
But anyway, so I had a best friend who was injured in a car accident just after he got home off of an LDS mission, and he was living with me as my roommate. And so he had just got out of a wheelchair. So I used to have to drive him to physical therapy and then bring him home. And his physical therapist would always say, hey, we need you to do these exercises at home with him. And so that's what actually got me interested in physical therapy. So I started working as a volunteer for Jim Kelson, who is a local here.
Sure.
He had a couple clinics down in Utah County. I started working with him and then in Willis Clyde, and decided I was going to go to school. So I applied and went to Texas Tech back in 1997. Graduated in 2000, moved up here, worked for Willis Clyde for a couple years, and then I broke off on my own in 2002 and opened an office in Park City out at Kimball Junction. Been there. We've been at the same location since 2002, and in 2005 or 6, I don't remember, I had family members who were like, hey, I'd come to physical therapy, but I want to drive clear to Park City to see you.
Sure.
So I opened up 3 afternoons a week here in Heber, and it's just kind of grown as the community's grown, the practice has grown. So now we're open every day. We're located out at 513 North Main, so that's right next door to the Papa Murphy's.
Most people know it as the old movie gallery.
The Blockbuster before that, movie gallery.
It's the old video update.
The video update.
That's
correct.
that was my.
They actually left me a few posters.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and a couple of them were even autographed. But
there you go.
I don't know where they went. I think my staff must have borrowed them because
Good
they're
deal.
not there anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're located right now. Wasatch Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine. And we've got a great facility now. I mean, I don't know anybody who saw my old facility. I know. I tolerated that for 6 years, and I don't know how. But this new facility is amazing. It's larger. We got a lot more equipment. We got more space.
The walls are
painted. Got
painted.
additional staff.
The walls are painted. There's
Walls
no
are painted.
holes.
No holes.
Yeah.
Ceiling tiles are in place.
Ceiling tiles
Most
are in
of them. I
place.
think we're missing one.
Okay.
But yeah. So it's much nicer. I actually feel a little professional now.
Yeah.
We may not act like it, but we feel a little more professional.
I honestly I will miss the old place just
the taco
because of
smell?
the
Taco
the smell. No, it had a great atmosphere, and now it is entirely too professional, but it's still fun. World Cup, man.
World Cup.
We-
Gosh!
we lost.
Dang it, we did.
We did not have enough. I mean, you could tell from the second that ball hit the ground at the very beginning of the game that they were in trouble.
You know, I thought that there was a ploy. I thought we were just saving our energy for a last.
You were
minute
drawing
run
them in.
because we really. I mean, people are like, our goalie was amazing. You know, he set
Yeah.
a new World Cup record. Our goalie shouldn't be setting World Cup records.
No,
So
you don't want your
that-
goalie to
and
set
they were
any
really
records.
talking about our defense.
Yeah.
Really, I don't know. I mean, I guess we kept them to no goals in the game, but still, our poor goalie got shellacked.
Yeah, that was rough to watch. We're still a little ways away
Yeah.
from being elite status there. I've always felt like the real challenge with soccer in the United States is we have really probably 4 or 5 sports that our best athletes want to do before they even consider soccer.
Yeah, I agree.
And that will probably change as soccer continues to grow, and every time we have World Cup now, I mean, I don't think there's any question that this has been by far the most popular World Cup that we've had in the United States, even when it was in the United States. It was just, I mean, I think it maybe broke some Twitter records or something with how many people were paying attention. So it's grown in popularity immensely. And you know, when we have a team here with RSL, and once you learn the rules and you understand what's going on, it's incredibly entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, from start to finish, it's intense from the very beginning to the very end, because there's always a chance someone's going to score a goal. Whereas in an NBA game, yeah, there's a lot of scoring, which is always one of the big arguments, that there's not enough scoring in soccer. There's a bunch of scoring in the NBA, but really, for the most part, if it is a close game, the exciting part of an NBA game is the last 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But in soccer, the whole game is like those last 3 minutes of an NBA game.
Well, I'll be honest. Lately, with Major League Baseball and NBA, really, it's not even fun to watch until it gets close till about the last few weeks before the playoffs start.
I think
Because
people
it's
are
like
starting to realize that.
teams start to actually compete. I mean, how many NBA games have you seen where they're just trotting up and down the floor in the 20th game of the season, and really it doesn't matter at the time, so you don't get great quality basketball.
Yeah.
Same thing with baseball. I mean, all of a sudden, baseball, which is a boring sport, like I would compare it, to what most people compare it to soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball gets exciting right around the time that the pennants are being decided. So,
Right.
The thing is, I've not heard very many people who have been to an RSL game that didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Most people are like, soccer, okay, that's going to be boring. But you go, now if you watch it on TV, sometimes it's not as exciting, but once you're in that stadium
Yeah.
and you hear that band in the south goal playing nonstop, shooting stuff in the air and chanting,
Yep.
there's some excitement that goes along with soccer. So yeah, I think during the Germany game, we streamed it over at my office. We could not get onto ESPN's website or ESPN to watch it. It wouldn't let us on.
There's
It
too
was
many people
overloaded.
trying to watch
and
it
they
online.
said that there were more people who streamed that World Cup soccer game than watched the NFL Super Bowl.
Wow.
On ESPN. So yeah, they said it definitely broke some records for streaming.
Yeah.
And that says a lot. I went over to the concert in the park.
Didn't help that it was in the middle of a workday.
Yeah, that also makes it harder to see. I was at the concert in the park, Mike, and I could not believe how many people in Heber City were talking about the World Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time you walked around that and heard people in Heber talking about the World Cup?
Yep. Yeah, so when the elite athletes in the United States figure out that they can earn the tens of millions of dollars that the baseball players and the football players and the basketball players make playing soccer, when it gets to that level, we will produce most likely the best soccer players in the world.
For sure. Our only problem right now is I mean, there's very few people. I think the highest paid player is Dempsey, and his contract was for like $30 million. I mean, you look at Hobby on the KSL, Beckerman, they're $350,000 a year players is all they're making.
Yeah.
So
No,
until
I agree.
it catches fire,
Yeah.
and we start getting those sponsorships like NFL football has and NBA has, and can pay those athletes, but I think it's coming. I mean, all you
Yeah.
gotta do is go out in the fall or the spring out to Southfields Park, and you're going to see 500 kids on a given Saturday out there playing soccer. It's amazing. You know,
Well,
you'll
people
never
are-
see that in football or basketball now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, people that remember, you know, the early days of the NBA, nobody probably remembers the early days of football because they're probably all dead now. But I mean, even the NBA in the '60s and '70s, I mean, they weren't making very much money at all, and it was still a pretty fledgling. It was the NBA was way behind most of the other organized sports at the time, and it's grown. So, anyway, I just wanted to get that in there. It was sad to watch them lose, but we're still
had a
ways
chance
away.
there, Mike, right at the end. We had 2 or 3
so
good
close.
looks at the goal to tie
So
that
close.
thing up.
Yeah, that was fun.
When we got down 2-0, I thought it was over. So kudos to the U.S. for not giving up.
Oh,
They
yeah.
could have given up at 2-0.
They could have rolled
and they
over. Yep.
didn't. So,
Okay, just I wanted to get a little bit of information from you. Obviously, Scott Phillips does a health show, so I'm sort of overlapping here a little bit, but I do want to get some information from you on what are some of the most common injuries, especially during the summer. So since we're going into the summer months, what do people do what are the common things that people do in the summer that get themselves hurt, and what can they do to try to avoid those things? Or avoid getting hurt while they're doing those things.
You know, the most common injury I usually typically see, here's a unique thing with physical therapy, is that because of where we live, our location, we have a lot of people who love winter sports,
Sure.
skiing. So most of those individuals will wait until winter is over, and then they have their surgery. So we actually rehab a lot of surgeries through the summers, ACLs, total knees, total hips, because they want to have it done so that when ski season starts back up, they can be right back to going at it. But one that I see, probably the most common injuries we see in the summer lately, because it's becoming a huge sport. I shouldn't say sport, but a recreational activity, is running.
Okay.
So I see a lot of people now. Running is inexpensive. You need a pair of shoes, a pair of shorts, and a T-shirt, and you
Right.
can go out and you can run anywhere. And I think you're starting to see it in Heber, in the Wasatch County, on any given morning, hundreds of people out running around.
Oh, for sure.
And so what happens is you get people who have never run much in their life, and they tend to go out and they run 2 miles one day, and hey, that felt good. So the next day they go 6. So I see a lot of overuse injuries. I see, some Achilles tendonitis, maybe a little lateral knee pain out there on the side of your knee, IT band problems. Sometimes it's in your hip. Your hip gets a little hip bursitis because you just go out and you probably try to get back doing that activity too quick. You do too much too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And so typically when those individuals come in, my first question to them is, how old are your shoes? Because most running injuries can be prevented with proper shoe wear. It's that simple.
Really?
And a lot of people, where we live, where we have the outlets just down the road, a lot of people will go up to the Nike or the Adidas outlet, and they'll go out and they'll buy a shoe that was listed for $160, but they get it for $45. So it's got to be a good shoe because it was $160.
Yeah.
The problem with those shoes is they're 2-3 years old sometimes, and research shows that those shoes, by sitting in a box for more than a year, break down by 50%.
Really?
So immediately when they open that shoe, it's already about used half its life just by sitting in a box.
Huh.
The cushion, the material that the shoe is made out of, actually starts to deteriorate as it sits there.
Huh.
So it's not always good to go out there and buy that cheaper, less expensive shoe. The other problem is everybody runs differently. Everybody's foot is different. And so you don't want to just go out and buy a shoe because it's cheap. You want to buy the shoe that is made for you. And it's pretty simple to determine what shoe you need. Any running store is going to help you with that. I mean, if you're serious about running and you keep getting injured, go to a running store and pay a little bit more money for the shoe. They're going to look at your foot, so they're going to make sure you're in the right shoe most of the time, and then they're going to give you 6 or 7 different options to try on, so that you make sure you get the right shoe. And what I mean by the right shoe, Mike, is somebody like me. I'm completely flat-footed. I have no arch in my foot. I'm a pronator. And,
yeah, definitely.
And so if
you are
me in
definitely
shoe,
a pronator.
I'm a pronator.
Okay.
So you put me in a shoe that is like what we call a neutral shoe. For the average person, it's not going to work for me. It's going to hurt. I'm going to get a knee pain. I'm going to get ankle pain. I'm going to get hip pain. Somewhere it's going to hurt because that shoe is not designed for my body or my mechanics.
Okay.
And so, and a lot of times you can just ask anybody, hey, you stop by a physical therapist, somebody who can look at your foot and say, oh yeah, you're flat-footed. You need a shoe that gives you some support. And so, that's kind of the main recommendation. Of course, we like whenever you get hurt and you can't get better, because then you come into us and ask us what to do, and then we can make a little money.
Sure. It's job security.
Yeah.
I know. I'm really hurting your business here, trying to inform people. Yeah, that's interesting though, that running and people overdoing it with running and things like that is causing such a problem. I had no idea that shoes made such a big difference though. Maybe that's why I've always hated running, is because I've never had the right shoe.
It makes all the difference in the world. I mean, you pay a little bit more money, but it also makes life so much better.
Interesting.
If it's something you really want to do.
Yeah. What can people do though besides shoes? I mean, when I was a kid, everything was about stretching and things like that before you exercise, and that's going to prevent you from having injury. And now they're kind of saying that that's maybe not so much the case. Where do you coming down on that? Is that
Well, the reason why stretching's kind of fallen out of favor with a lot of people and a lot of research is because, number one, most people don't do it right. There's ballistic stretching and there's static stretching. And ballistic stretching is where you bend over, touch your toes, stand up, bend over, touch your toes. It's like a bouncing movement. And you actually can tear muscle fibers while you're doing that. There's actually research that shows more people get injured stretching than they do doing the actual activity. So what you can do is, I'm a big believer in, if you're a runner or you're a biker or you play basketball, I believe in the most important thing is a proper warm-up. Spend a good 5 minutes. It doesn't matter what sport you're playing. If you'll spend a good 5 to 10 minutes jogging, walking fast, doing something just to get your temperature warmed up, get the muscles warmed up, especially the muscles you're working. If you're a baseball player, you need to be doing stuff to get your shoulder or your arm or your hand warmed up before you stretch. And then if you have to stretch, warm up first, and then just a quick light static stretch. Hold the stretch for 10-15 seconds and only do it 3 or 4 times, and don't go to where it hurts. Just go to where you feel it and then stop. I believe more in, you warm up, you do participate in your activity, and then you stretch afterwards, because then your muscles are nice and pliable. They're warmed up and they're ready to be stretched at that point. And that's how you prevent injuries. Once you get the injury, stretching isn't always the good thing. Sometimes stretching a tendonitis can make it more inflamed. So you use things like foam rollers. Foam rollers target certain muscles and tendons better than a stretch can, and you use a foam roller. Or you do strength training to isolate those areas. Just 10-15 minutes of strength training after an activity.
Okay. Yeah, it's incredible how complicated it can all get. It seems like we should just be able to kind of go out and do whatever activity and then stop doing that activity and not worry about it. But
I like the people that do that, Mike.
Yeah. I've been that guy a couple of times, and hopefully I've learned my lesson. But yeah, so one thing that I wanted to ask you about, we saw it in the World Cup, and we see it in we see it when we're watching the Jazz. We see it when we're watching our college football teams and different things. They'll pull hamstrings and stuff like that, and it seems like these are the elite athletes. These are people that pay really close attention to all of that. Why do those things happen seemingly sometimes a little too often?
Well, I think when you're looking at, let's say Johnson yesterday, who went out with a hamstring pull in the first half, these guys are elite athletes, and they are pushing their bodies to the extreme. And you have to factor into account the humidity, the heat. I mean, if they're not properly hydrated, muscles aren't going to fire and act the way they're supposed to. But at the same time, I mean, you've got an elite athlete taking off on a full sprint.
Sure. So
many times, eventually something's got to give. And so that's typically what happens. Usually an injury starts to occur. We don't realize it until after it happens, but we've started to notice a problem somewhere else. You know, maybe your hip is tight or your knee is tight, and so now your hamstring has to work a little differently, and so you end up straining it. You know, your calf is tight, so you end up tearing your Achilles. It usually starts somewhere else, but it can happen to anybody, and especially, I mean, obviously that's why we see it more in what we term those weekend warriors, those locals that we see here, you know, that go out and play county league softball on Monday night, and that's their only form of activity.
Right.
And they start it. There's no preparation. First night they show up and they take off to first base, and bam, there goes their hamstring, or ouch, there goes their groin. It's just, you know, we just don't take care of our bodies like we should. That trend's starting to change here in the Valley. You're seeing a lot more people getting out and being more active, but that's generally it. We just don't do enough prior to our activity in preparation for it.
Sure. Yeah, we need to definitely be more aware of getting warmed up and being careful with ourselves, because it's expensive and time-consuming and painful to injure yourself that way. And if you tear something important, if you tear a ligament or something like that, then it's a long recovery. Okay, we're going to move to a different topic. You are a huge proponent of the pool proposal that we will be voting on this fall. Help us, I guess, give us your sales pitch. How did you get involved, and why are you such a big proponent, and convince us that this is something that we should do the way it's being proposed right now?
Well, you know, Mike, I'm not. I hate to convince anybody of anything.
Well, we're going to vote on it, so
yeah, I know, and I
not forcing
that.
anybody to think a certain way. I'm just saying, give us your reasons.
I've been to a lot of the meetings now. I was really involved early on. I've been so busy lately, I haven't been able to attend a lot of the meetings. I believe I'm still on the board or the committee. I'm not sure. They may have kicked me off by now. But you know, I guess the big thing is that this valley needs something like this. I mean, anytime I've ever gone, we go to Camas maybe a dozen times a year, and we use their aquatic center. I know that we would use it a lot. My kids would probably go swimming at least once a week if I didn't have to drive them clear up to Camas. Anytime I've ever been to Camas, you look at the name on the registries, and 50 to 70% of them are Wasatch County residents that are going up there and using those facilities. Now, I know people say, well, it doesn't get used in the summertime, and it doesn't. It doesn't get used as much, but there's still things that we could use it for. I just, you know, this aquatic center, we need to think about, not only are we getting a swimming pool with this, we're also getting 5 new baseball fields, as well as 3 soccer fields. So now, granted, the aquatic center is the majority of the cost for this. I think it's like 14 million of the 19 or 20 million that we're looking to bond. But it's an outdoor, and it's something for this community. It's something that this community needs. My kids play a lot of soccer, and it seems like every place we go and play, there's a soccer complex, and then they have a rec center with an aquatic center, and you go in there, and they've got, I mean, a lot of these places are decked out down in Salt Lake County and Utah County. They've got swimming pools. They've got the indoor kids swimming pool with the slides and everything. They've got the lazy river. They've got the lap pools. They have flow riders. A lot of them have flow riders. We initially wanted a flow rider in ours, but people were freaking out about it because the cost of it was about $1 million. And just like we do here all the time in this valley, we go in and we take something that I think is people look at it and say, well, that's too much, let's downsize it. And so they start taking it apart. We've actually pulled a lot of things out of this aquatic center that we originally wanted. But it's you show up at these places, and there's always people in them. There are always people taking advantage of them. And I just think that our valley needs something like that. It keeps us from, in the wintertime, we don't have to drive to Camas on snowy roads or down to Utah County on snowy roads. It allows us to do stuff here. I think it'll also make a difference as far as with tourism. You look at, and maybe people don't want tourism here, but I know us local businesses, we do. Because you look at Park City, when there's anything hosted, even in Heber or Midway, a lot of the people stay in Park City. Why? Because there's cool things. There's mountain biking. There's the ice skating rink. There's all these things up there for people to do. I think you put an aquatic center in here, and when we host the rodeo and when we host some of these things, maybe people stay at Zermatt or they stay at the homestead, because now they can buzz down here, they can go over to the aquatic center, they can swim, they can go out and play baseball or soccer. Heber Valley, with the biking trails we're getting around here, with the running trails we're getting around here, this fits so perfect into our valley. And I think what we're starting to see occur in this valley is becoming a more of an outdoor recreational destination.
Yeah. Just to play devil's advocate here for a little bit, I think one of the major arguments against doing it the way it's being currently proposed is the tax aspect. It's not a matter of we have this extra money, what do we do with it? Hey, let's build a pool. It's hey, we're already strapped for cash, let's borrow more and build something that we would all like to have. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the tax aspect of it?
Well, for me, this tax standpoint, I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the cost,
because it'll cost it costs businesses a lot more than it'll cost individuals.
Well, it'll cost businesses that own their property. I mean, really, the only people that are paying for this are property owners. So for like me, where I rent, because I keep telling people, I'll pay more. My business can pay more. Well, it doesn't necessarily affect my business because it's the guy that owns the building who's paying because it's going to be a property tax. And so it doesn't affect all businesses unless you own your property. But for me, I look at it as, I think it's going to cost at most it's going to cost me $9 a month. And actually, strangely enough, Mike, that price is coming down as more and more people move to this valley. The cost of the aquatic center from a tax standpoint has gone down. We've actually, the cost to build it since we originally started pursuing this has gone up by about $1.5 million, but the cost to pay for it out of everybody's pocket has gone down from I want to say it was about $9 on average. That's for an average $250,000 house. Has gone down to it's under $8 a household now. And 3 or 4 years from now, that's even going to be less. So we're talking, let's say worst case scenario, it's $8 for the average household to pay for this. So we're looking at less than $100 a year to fund this thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, it's not a big deal. Now I understand the people who I feel really that I feel bad for are the senior citizens because right now they're living on budgets and that's something that
yeah, their income's not going up.
Their income is not going up, and that I think, and so I can totally understand some of these elderly people and wanting to not pay for this, but I think. And I do a lot of Facebooking with it, and the majority of the people that I've heard, I would say 10 to 1 are in favor of it than are against it. And most people look at it as though, hey, $100 a year, no big deal. Now we're still going to have to pay to utilize it,
right?
But $100 a year from our taxes, that's not a huge deal for me.
Sure.
And I just say that for me and for some of the people I talk to, and I realize it is for other people. I've heard people who come into me and maybe they're lower income, but a lot of those people rent, so it doesn't cost them anything anyways. It's costing the person who owns the house that they're living in. Those are the people who are going to have to pay for it. So
yeah, now theoretically their rent could potentially go up based on,
and the landlord most likely will do that or has the right to do that.
Sure.
But I think that the benefits it brings to the community outweigh the negatives.
Do you think that there are let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? Do you think there is the potential to get help from private industry to fund this thing? I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You look at a lot of buildings and somebody's name is on it. And the reason why somebody's name is on it is because they gave them a whole bunch of money to help pay for that. Now, sometimes those are just individual benefactors. Sometimes they're companies that want to make sure that they have a good reputation in the community. Has there been any work toward getting that kind of help, paying for it? Because I think that would lighten the burden and make it a lot easier pill to swallow if there was some kind of investment that way.
Actually, Mike, there has been, and I can't mention names of groups
That's
that we've
fine.
talked to.
Sure.
And every one of those groups have told us the same answer. When it passes, or if it passes, come talk to us.
Okay.
So there's several different organizations that have a lot of names on a lot of buildings that we have been in communication with, but none of them will commit anything until it is 100% approved, and then they won't even talk to us until we've got something.
Sure.
And so that's the problem. We can't come out and say, oh yeah, we've got a donor of $10 million who's
Right.
willing to come in. We can't do that. They won't. Well, we just can't do it yet.
No, I
Nobody
understand.
will even talk to us until it's been approved on the ballot. But there are 3 or 4 different groups that we have talked to that said, yeah, sure, come talk to us whenever if this thing passes in November. Come talk to us, and then we'll see what we can do.
Right.
But that's definitely one of the plans, and we're also gonna. I mean, we're not just looking for those large donors who are going to come in with mega millions or
Well,
whatever.
yeah, I mean,
We're
even
opening it up to anybody, any
yeah.
group that wants to. We're
50,000
talking about
here and
having kind of like
100,000
that
there.
wall of fame when you walk in.
Right.
Gold, silver, diamond, whatever.
Yeah.
People, and we're going to try to raise as much of the money as we can. Our problem is we just can't say, okay, we've raised $14 million.
Right.
Because a lot of people won't do anything or commit money until they know it's going through.
Of course.
So no, that's definitely a topic that we've discussed. We've been in contact with a few people, and we just have to wait and see what the citizens here say.
Sure. Do you think that there would be a willingness? Let's say that all combined through big donors and little donors, let's say they raise $10 million out of the $23 million price tag or whatever it is. Do you think that there's going to be a willingness to say, okay, taxpayers, we've raised half of what it's going to cost to build this building, so we're not going to go ahead and use all the money that you approved for us. We're gonna save you that money. We're gonna keep your taxes lower, and we're gonna use this private money to fund half, and we're gonna use public money to fund half, publicly borrowed money. Do you think there's going to be a willingness to do that, or do you think it's going to be, hey, we got approved for $23 million, we're going to use the $23 million, and if we raise another 10, we'll just make it cooler?
No, I think whatever money's raised, in fact, I know whatever money's raised, we'll use that to take the burden off the taxpayers.
Cool.
So if it's $23 million and we raise 10, we'll put that 10. That'll drop the cost down to $13 million, and you'll see that affected in your taxes. So then you're going to be paying half of what you were before. Instead of $8, you're going to be paying $4.
Yeah.
So which I think would obviously make people much happier.
Right.
Here's my only fear, Mike, and it's the same thing. The same thing happened whenever we did the high school. We came
Right.
in with a budget, $65 million or whatever. People freaked out. What kind of high school are you building here? So they downsized it down to where they got it down to about $50 million or whatever. Well, 4 years later, we've outgrown the high school. Now we're going to have to bond because now we have to build the high school bigger. Here's my only fear. The way people are trying to nickel and dime this thing, we're actually going to go in and we're going to build a facility that we're going to outgrow or outuse. After about a year or two, people are going to say, if you had that flow rider, I'd be more likely to come and use it. People don't understand that flow rider raises so much money down in Lehigh. It produces tons of revenue for them. People come in just to use that alone because it's something that all the high school kids want to do, the junior high kids want to do, these fathers like me who still think we got it, we want to do. So we our problem is we start taking that kind of stuff out, and now we're going to build this smaller facility. And when all's said and done, people are going to be like, "Well, that's not that cool." You spend all this money, and that's not that cool. That's my only problem with it. Is if I could do it the way I wanted it, we'd have the flow rider, we'd have the bigger pool, because this community is growing, and this community can handle it.
Yeah, it is growing exponentially, it seems. And I certainly understand the argument. I think that makes a lot of sense that we certainly, we are all sort of kicking ourselves right now with the high school that not that we maybe as individual voters understood the ins and outs of why the high school was built a certain way or the planning that went into that, and or why we have all of a sudden outgrown it after a few years. But we are certainly, most of us, I guess, are probably frustrated that's an issue now, and that we are going to have to add on to accommodate all the extra
Which is
people.
a lot more expensive now than it would have been if we'd have done it right the first time.
Right. So yeah, I think that what most people are looking for, based on the various conversations that I've had with people, is they just want responsibility. They want the priority in anything, like anytime you use public funds. They want the priority to be efficiency and responsibility, not throwing money at things that are unnecessary or overly extravagant. But they still want a good finished end product if we're going to do something. And so obviously the current building as proposed is not anything that is set in stone. There's still the potential to make changes, I'm assuming.
Well, the changes we've made obviously have been to accommodate those individuals who want accountability for what we're doing.
Sure.
That's why I say, like, the flow rider. People felt like, well, why do we need the flow rider? That's extravagant. So we took it out. We originally had a larger pool planned so that we could host larger events, get some swim competitions coming to this valley so that people use our community, our hotels, and spend money in our businesses. But we had to downsize that a little bit just to accommodate people. So we're trying to be as accommodating as possible. But there comes a point where a lot of people are like, well, why do we need to put water slides in? And why do we? Well, if we take that out, then all we have is the swimming pool. If that's the case, let's just go over to the intermediate school and let's just remodel that. Because that's what what people want us to do gets us right back to that point. And that pool is not usable. It's not friendly. It's not friendly to kids. It's not friendly to most of us the kids who want to go and play in the little playland and splash pool and all that. So that's the problem, is we get to a point where it's like, okay, we can't accommodate you anymore. If so, well, then it's a waste of time, and all we're going to get is a bunch of people who are unhappy and say, well, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that?
Yeah.
So there's kind of a fine line with what we're trying to do. But right now we have a great facility planned. Now, I'm still pushing to get the flow rider put back in there. Who may happen, it may not, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to make sure we don't want to burden the taxpayers.
Sure.
Too much. But we do want to give a good quality product when all's said and done. And I think for the most part, Greg Taylor's kind of the guy that's spearheading this. Yeah. And there will be some accountability. People we've been involved with the city planners. We've been involved with the finance guys. So there will be accountability.
Sure.
And people, I want people to be happy and proud of what this is, because I know this is going to be a place where families can go hang out. It'll be great for the community if we can get it here, Mike.
Do you know how much the school has offered to pay? They would probably be a pretty large user of the pool and maybe restrict some of the use at certain times of the year.
Well, I know that, and I wasn't in the meeting, but I've been told this. I know that the school did, in fact, commit the amount of money they've been putting to maintain and operate the pool, the current pool that we have. They committed every single penny to go to the county aquatic center every year, in exchange for the use of the pool, like they've been doing in the past for kids swim lessons or whatever during the day.
Sure.
And so, I don't know what that number is, but it's not quite half of what we estimate the yearly maintenance will be on the pool, or the cost of the operating expenses, but it's pretty close. So it really takes a big chunk out of the taxpayer thing. Now, here's the thing: most of our numbers that we've been quoting has not included that amount.
Right.
So that number, the amount that's going to affect our taxes when the guarantee and when everything is done will actually go down. Yeah. But that figure, I think that figure is like $300,000 a year or something that they've been paying to maintain the. It's somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so that's gonna immediately take that amount that we need just to break even significantly down. Yeah. So.
Well, we'll be voting on it in November, and voter turnout seems to be always the main factor in getting something passed or defeated. So whichever side of the aisle you fall on this issue, you definitely want to spread the word and make sure that you let your opinions be heard, because like always, our voter turnout will probably be relatively pathetic. Yeah. as always, and a very small percentage of the population will make a decision for everybody else.
Yep.
And then whatever happens, you won't be able to complain if you didn't go vote. So, I think that this is going to be a topic that we're going to continue to have to talk about throughout the summer, and we'll get proponents and opponents on the show, and we'll continue to hash it out and let people make an informed decision instead of just a knee-jerk or emotional decision, and that's all we can do. So.
Well, and for those people who are interested, Mike, right now we're doing a grassroots efforts. We're getting ready to, because we want to be able to run a good campaign. I mean, we're treating this basically as a campaign, so we want to be able to, we're doing a fundraisers to try to raise money so we can hand out flyers and we can give stickers out that you can put on your windows in your car, those who are in favor of it. But so there's a big grassroots efforts going on. I would give you the website, but most people are driving and they're not going to, just, you can get online, Google the Wasatch County Aquatics Initiative. Find it, go to the website. It gives you all the information that you need to know. It gives you the layout of the building. It shows you what it's going to be, what it's going to look like. It gives you the cost breakdown. Everything can be found there on the website. You can like it on Facebook, same name. But go there, look at it. And if you're interested in helping out, we're always looking for either donations of money or donations of time to help us get out when we start the grassroots effort in this fall. I know currently they have meetings about once a month where we're getting volunteers all set up and everybody educated on what we're doing so that we can go out and make sure everybody in the community knows just exactly what is going on. We want people to understand. We want people to know. We want, when this thing hits the ballot, we don't want anybody saying, well, I didn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
We want everybody knowing exactly where we stand with this initiative.
That's the worst thing in our political process for me right now, is that people walk into that ballot box and they look at a thing and they say, I don't know what this is. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, don't. If you don't know, don't vote.
or you read they have the little thing that talks about it, and you read it, and it's all like some attorney wrote it, and so most of us
they
are just
can't even
like,
understand
okay,
what it
whatever.
says.
And then you just vote. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we want people informed. We don't want you to later regret that you voted against it. We don't want you to regret that you voted for it. So we want people informed. And there's a lot of people out there who know what's going on. You can ask anybody. You're right. I think it will become a pretty good topic. It was pretty hot for a couple months there, and it's backed off a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think as it gets closer to the election, we'll see it.
Yeah,
up again.
it'll heat up for sure. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dan. I know, again, it was short notice. I am so lousy about calling people ahead of time. I really am. I mean, we've been talking about getting you on the show for a while, but thank you for making adjustments to your schedule and coming in and talking to us. So I really do appreciate that. And this radio thing, I'm really enjoying it. I hope people are listening. I hope people are getting something out of it. I hope people are, at least marginally entertained for an hour. But it takes a lot of time. I'm really surprised how much time I spend preparing and getting things ready and calling people and everything. So, and sometimes it's hard to get people for one reason or another. A lot of people are reluctant to come on the show. So, or they just, they're too busy or whatever. So it's, but anyway, I really appreciate your support. Thank you for coming on the show. Just want to remind everybody of a couple of quick things. Of course, we've got the 4th of July coming up on Friday, so please be safe out there and be responsible with the fireworks and use Dan's story as a cautionary tale.
Kids, don't trust your dads.
Do not trust your dads because we are all still kids at heart, and we just have more money now. So it's a dangerous combination. I do want to make sure everybody understands next Friday, the 11th, I believe, is the Relay for Life fundraiser. It's a great thing that is in our community that raises money to research new and incredible ways to cure cancer and to save people's lives. It's not a race. It's not any kind of a run in any way, shape, or form. They call it a relay. Which is probably somewhat of a misnomer there, but it's simply a fun event, and I'll have more details on that next week. But I know they're currently trying to raise as much money as they can. They're selling candles. They're selling the luminarias that they will line the path with, where you can put a name of a loved one who has either lost a fight to cancer or has won a fight against cancer, and you can memorialize them that way. As people walk through, they see the names and remember how many lives are affected by cancer, and that it genuinely is really an issue that we can defeat. But it's going to take a lot more time and a lot more money to find the ways to overcome all cancer in all its various forms. So be aware of that coming up next weekend. And if you want to get involved, you can find it on Facebook, Wasatch County, or Wasatch County Relay for Life or something, or Heber Relay for Life. I can't remember which one it's called. But anyway, thank you again for tuning into the show. This is 1340 KTMP, Heber City, Utah. My name is Mike Hewlett. This has been Mornings with Mike. Our guests today have been Clint Neerings and Dan Ivie, and big thanks to both of them for coming on the show. And you guys have a wonderful 4th of July weekend, and be safe, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Thanks so much.